Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across. It's turned in. It's Pittman who's got it. Livingston leads.
Road is long.
Now can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
The lead. And Livingston have the lead.
Man, score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hay celebrates. And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We're gonna go.
Hello and welcome back to TalkLivi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Andy. Today Callum Waugh and Callum Brown misses out. Callum Brown, for obvious reasons, he's still at the National Stadium just now celebrating, I'm sure. We've got a lot to get through this week. Firstly, we'll take a look back at Wednesday night's game with Celtic. Then it's the big one. We'll look back at the Cup semi-final. I think, as you may tell, we're all a bit stressed out. Was it a day to remember, or was it a day to forget? We then look ahead to Wednesday night's game at home to Kilmarnock before previewing Saturday's game with Aberdeen.
On Wednesday night, Livi sent out a team against 9 in a row Champions Celtic that had 7 changes from last weekend's game against the same opponents. If there was ever a time to use the tagline that so many hate, look how far we've come, it was then. A Livi side with more than one eye on Sunday's Betfred Cup semi-final still showing that we mean business and shows the strength of squad we have. Even with still half the league campaign to go, it looks like one of these two teams have done 10 in a row, and that's Livi. What a performance from the boys.
It was an incredible display by the team. Obviously 7 changes to we were only expecting maybe a couple, so fair play to Davies, went and made 7 changes, but it didn't really overly weaken the team, I didn't think. He's obviously made a change in shape. He's gone straight at the back, kind of playing 2 number 10s with Forrest and Jet. And we started off brilliantly. Great header by Kieran Brown. Awful defending by Celtic though, and we kind of touched on their defending from set pieces this season. But I think that kind of kicked Celtic into gear. We could have gone 2 up just right after as well, and Forrest dragged one past the post. But as I say, it kind of kicked Celtic into gear, and they kind of upped the tempo of the game and started moving the ball quite quickly. Equaliser, it's a good delivery by Griffiths, but both Jet and Jack Hamilton, I think, suspect for the goal. Jack's man gets across the front of him, but Jet looks like he's almost in the box just to kind of watch the flight of the ball and attack the ball, and he's on his heels. Good finish by El Yunusi. Second goal, it's quite clearly offside. Good ball by McGregor, nonetheless, but it's clearly offside, and you kind of think then that we're going to struggle to get back in the game. But I think we kind of weathered a bit of a storm, kind of first 10 minutes or so of the second half. Fair play, Robbie McCrory has taken a lot of critics this season, but I think he put in a fantastic display. Great save from Ayer just before half-time, made a great save from El Yunusi as well. Second half, and then we get the goal. Brown does well to press Christie. Great little ball round the corner from Kabaya, who I thought was really impressive on his debut, and good cut back by Brown, and Jet kind of coming in off the right-hand side and tucking it in. But as the game wore on, we looked like the team likely to go and win the game, to be honest. And I think we were denied a stonewall penalty late on as well, which I'm sure you guys will come on to talk about. But it's, folk hate when we say it, but it does show you how far we've come, that we can go and make as many changes as that, play against a full-strength Celtic side, and come away, again, almost a little disappointed that we've not gone and grabbed all 3 points.
Yeah, something, I think it's great credit to the players that came in as well, because it would have been easy for them to sit there and go, well, I'm playing in this game, I'm probably not going to get a game in the cup final, certainly for a lot of these players that have came in, Davey made it clear that he'd kind of already had a team in his head for the cup final. So these players have probably come in knowing they're not going to get in the starting lineup for the cup semi-final. So it's a great credit to them to go out there and show what they're all about, and really give Davey a bit of a headache, in terms of going forward. Maybe not for the semi-final, but going forward, he now knows that he can rely on so many of these players to make 7 changes. It almost makes a mockery of Celtic a little bit. I found it pretty funny that Celtic fans were going on the game at Celtic Park about, they were playing half a team. Livingston should have been better than us. Well, I'm afraid, Celtic fans, that you played a full team against us on Wednesday. We played a second string team, if you want to speak, and you still couldn't beat us. So, who's laughing now? But, you've absolutely said it all. I couldn't be any more proud of this team just now. The way they're all pulling their socks up, pulling in one direction. It's great to watch. And like you say, 2 games against Celtic. We spoke about the midweek game last episode. We went away for that feeling really disappointed. Came away for this one feeling like, it was probably 2 points dropped as well. You mentioned the penalty near the end. It's an absolute stone waller. Scott Brown getting sent off is probably the best incident since Willow Flood. Couldn't have happened to a better player. But it shows, like you say, it shows how far we've come, that we can rest so many players, and I think it shows what a great squad we've got. That we've got 7 players that can come into that starting 11 and really show what they're all about, show their skills, take the game to Celtic and be unlucky to come away with just a point.
Yeah, I thought the game against Celtic during the week there was quite an interesting one. I mind when the team lineups came out. I think in our group chat we were a wee bit, well, speaking for myself, I was definitely very concerned. The way that we set up, and to be honest, there was a lot of kind of defenders in the lineup, so we weren't entirely sure how we were exactly going to line up. I think many of us were suspecting like a kind of use of wing backs, and to be honest, we didn't really do that. We had ended up with Jet on the left and Forrest on the right, or switched over, whatever way it was. The midfield was the most interesting one for me, though. So obviously Bartley dropped out, Holt wasn't there, and Civil dropped out as well. And we had 3 players who have all, I think for the entire season, have played as fullbacks. I think Steve Lawson played the last bit of a game in midfield, but Lawson, Serrano and McMillan played in a midfield kind of free with Pittman there as well. And as you have said, they didn't look out of place at all. And I think that's incredible that we've played. It's fair enough. If you do that against Hamilton or something like that, people will be like, it's kind of like a team's kind of similar quality. You can afford to do that. We played against Callum McGregor, David Turnbull and Ryan Christie. 3 players who are probably going to go to the Euros for Scotland. Probably 2 of them, McGregor and Christie, are probably nailed on to start as well. Sorrow in there as well, who's apparently like the wonder boy of Scottish football right now as well. And we didn't look any weaker against them. That was definitely a massive... And the way that the game went on, the header from Brown, it was terrific, but Celtic then did start to get like a foothold in the game. I think the game during the week was a massive learning experience for Jack Hamilton. Obviously, we've been used to having Robinson and Platnick up front in recent weeks, where we've had a lot of energy getting in front of defenders. Hamilton did that once, which led to the goal, but I feel like for the rest of the kind of half, he really struggled.
Nah, I think, to be honest, I think Jack did really well, personally. I think, considering he's up against, a Republic of Ireland international and Shane Duffy, I thought he schooled Shane Duffy at times. There was 3 or 4 times that he came in, drew Duffy out, and Duffy just came through the back of him and gave away free kicks, for example, for the opening goal. Personally, I think Jack did a really good job up top, considering this lad's just came from a loan spell at East Fife and he's up against a recognised, international. But yeah, personally, I thought Jack did really well.
I can see where you're coming from, but I still feel like you could kind of see that kind of possibly inexperience, and I think for the rest of that kind of first half, you could see that we were really getting penned into our own half. We weren't really, whenever we're clearing balls and that, it was just kind of coming straight back to us. I kind of feel like that. Not saying that he was poorer or that, but I think it was I think we did miss that kind of presence up top that we have had in kind of recent weeks. But yeah, second half comes into it, and as soon as we scored that goal, it only looked like one team was winning that. And I think the most clear example that you can tell that was the case was by the footprints in the snow. You looked at the pitch at the end of the game, there was a lot more footprints in the Celtic half than there was in the Livi half. So I guess that's a clear indication. Like, you get like your heat mats up in that after the game. There you go, straight clear visual definition of how on top we were. 2 new signings came on as well, Riley and Kabaya. Thought they were excellent, plenty of energy, which possibly in my mind is what's making me think that Hamilton kind of struggled a wee bit more. The fact that they two kind of came on and they were buzzing about, getting into good areas and causing issues. But yeah, 2 each straw against Celtic for the second year in a row at home. Can't complain about it at all.
I've got to laugh at your Jack Hamilton's schooled Duffy. I think I would probably school Duffy just now. He's absolutely hopeless. What a big hoodie he is, by the way.
It kind of shows you as well, like, we had Forrest and Jet as kind of 2 wide players with no fullbacks behind them. You feel like a team like Celtic would look at Jet, see that he's not going to be making up and down that line, and they go, right, we're going to target that area and try and get down the left-hand side, because he's not going to follow Taylor, he's not going to follow McGregor. Celtic are in a real dire situation right now, and I think the game did show like how inept that they have been lately, by the fact that they couldn't capitalise on the amount of changes and change the formation that we made.
I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely stunned that Jet got man of the match. I don't think he was particularly great. In fact, I'm going to keep criticising him, because the last time I criticised him, he popped up with a goal, and I was kind of criticising him on Wednesday night halfway through the game, popped up with a goal. So I'm just going to keep doing that whenever he comes on or whenever he plays. But I did think he got found out down that side. He done his best. I know he's played there in the past, and Davy Martindale mentioned that in his post-match that he's played kind of wide in the past. I just don't think he's capable of doing it now, to be perfectly honest. But he slotted in there, he'd done a job, and we got a result. And, credit to him, he popped up in the right area and he got that equalising goal, and it's turned out to be a really important goal. So, I mean, a great result considering the changes.
For me with Jet, I think, as you kind of touched on, David said that he was kind of playing as almost like an inside forward and behind Hamilton, but every time we lost the ball, him and Forrest were filling in the wide areas, and it's probably a shift that Jet's not had to do for a number of years, like that. And I think he stuck to the task, to be fair to him. He was trying to get back in and track, but it's obviously not his game. And playing against that level of opposition, you're asking quite a lot. But, as you say, he's popped up with a goal. Davey mentioned it's something they've worked on, kind of coming in off the line and getting in at the back stick. And he's taking his goal really well. So fair play to him. That's the aspect that you're wanting from Jet. At the end of the day, he's a forward, he's a striker. You want him creating and getting in on the goals, and he did do that, to be fair to him. Angus, you touched on 2 debuts, Riley and Kabaya. I have to say, thought Riley was very lively, but Kabaya certainly had a debut to remember. I think that's almost cult status, getting Scott Brown sent off on your debut, is it not?
Aye, definitely. So even looking at the Twitter reaction, there was a lot of the Irish support. Obviously, in Ireland, there's a massive Celtic contingency. And there's a lot of them laughing it up, being like, oh, amazing, a wee laddie for Shelbourne's getting Scott Brown sent off in his debut, terrific. But just to kind of touch on Celtic a wee bit again, they really are struggling and they're looking for leaders. And your captain comes on, and in a truly nothing area of the pitch where Celtic were in possession of the ball at the time, he's looked for the boy twice and thrown out an arm. What is he playing at there? Like, if that happened with any of our players, I would be absolutely livid. And it just shows you the calamity that they are right now, isn't it?
Yeah, Celtic are in a mess, absolutely in a mess. But obviously that takes nothing away from the last 2 results for us. I think a special mention for Kieran Brown. He's, again, like Robbie McCrory, you mentioned Robbie, Kieran Brown's had his own critics this season. Some still don't think he's good enough. I'll hold my hands up personally. I didn't think he could come in and do a job in that position this season, but he's came in and really been solid. And obviously a goal and an assist. That marauding left wing back that we didn't think he had it in him. He's gone and done the job. An incredible performance for him, and I think deservedly man of the match, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think Kieran was brilliant. I think part of the problem for Brown was he was struggling with kind of niggly injuries at the start of the season and wasn't getting that kind of run of games right at the start. And obviously we were a bit off form, but since he's come back into the side, even going back to the Ross County game where we tweaked our shape second half in the cup tie, came on at left back, kind of in a back three. And then recently when he went to left back against Hibs, he's been fantastic, to be honest. He's not the flashiest by any stretch of the imagination, not maybe quite as dynamic as like Serrano and Longridge, who's obviously just come back to the club as well, but he does the basics right, I think, as a defender. And he had a great performance. Another shout out, I would say, for man of the match was Scott Pittman. I think Pitts was just doing Pitts things. You know, he was pressing absolutely everything all over the park. First half in particular, I thought there was a few times he took the ball and carried us up the park a few times when we were under pressure, which I thought was really impressive. But, you know, it just shows the energy of that lad that he's now just gone and played at Hampden Park in a semi-final and been running about like a madman again. The boy just doesn't run out of batteries, does he?
I just wanted to quickly mention Brown again, because I mentioned it right at the beginning about the players coming into the team knowing that they probably weren't going to get a start in the cup semi-final. I think it showed what Kieran Brown's all about in this game when he knew he was suspended for the cup semi-final, and he's gone and put a performance in like that. Absolutely incredible, and shows him that, and the type of player that he is, that he'll give everything regardless of what his situation is.
Aye, that sums Kieran Brown up perfectly. For the most part of when he kind of first joined, he kind of mainly has played as like a centre half, and I think there's been a couple of times at left back I've not been too sure of him, but I have to say in recent weeks he has shown that extra something. Whether it is because you look at the last couple of teams that we faced, so he would have been up against Griffiths against Celtic there. Prior to that as well, up against kind of players like Johnston, Martin Boyle at Hibs and that. You were kind of like thinking, oh no, like is Brown going to get caught out with like players' pace right here? But he must have like some amount of like really good like kind of game intelligence and like reading the game to like get him into those positions where he's not being exploited. And I have to say, yeah, the second goal that we created, it sums up what he's added to his game going forward. That 50-50 with Ryan Christie, absolutely no, like it wasn't even a contest. Like knowing about the kind of final third to like bomb down the line, have a look up, put a great ball across the front of the goal, and yeah, got a reward for it. And as Ewan said, Scott Pittman, there's a reason why he's the first name on the team sheet every week. You know exactly what he's going to give you. Sometimes it doesn't quite work the technical side, but in terms of energy and like looking for the ball, he's always there. And for a team like us, that's all you're wanting from your midfielder.
Just before we move on to what we all want to talk about, a quick mention for the social media team with the 10 in a row tweet. That seems to have gone down extremely well on Twitter and on Facebook this week, hasn't it?
Oh, it's top banter from them. Absolute shithousery to do that. It's, have to say, great effort to Dave Black and the other guys behind the social media team. Fair play.
I think you've absolutely done a team when even their own fans look at it and go, you know what, fair play.
On Sunday, Livi travelled to Hampden Park to face a St Mirren side who had already defeated Livi twice this season. It was the biggest cup game for Livi since 2006, when we faced heartbreak as we lost out to Dunfermline at the same stage of the same competition. This group of players have already written themselves into the history books, but could they write themselves into legendary status by getting to our first major cup final since 2004? Guys, have the nerves recovered since the full-time whistle went?
Yeah, I mean, wow, quite incredible, I think. You know, do you know something? I said to you last night, we were chatting away in the group chat, and I was really, really confident we were going to win the game on Sunday against them, and I'm really confident just the way everything was. You know, we went into the game on the back of 10, undefeated, playing really well, confidence high, the players were really buzzing for the game. So I was really quite comfortable until the final 20 minutes of the game, when I got really, really nervous and could barely watch. I think we played particularly well. No, I didn't, but I don't give a toss, to be honest. We've won the game. We're in the cup final. And, you know, the players, like you mentioned there, the players have written themselves into the history books already, but they're 90-minute game away from becoming legends again. And, you know, the players have spoke about it during the week, about walking into the club and seeing these pictures. And, you know, from 2004 when we lifted the trophy, we were probably all fortunate enough to be at that game and see a lot of fans, a lot of younger fans. Callum Brown from the podcast and the commentator, he's quite often said he was only 4 years old when we last lifted that trophy, so he can't remember. So I'm chuffed for these guys, but it's just a pity we'll probably not be there. But what a day it'll be, and hopefully lockdown's over, we'll be able to meet up and have a few cans and enjoy the game together, and hopefully the boys bring it home. But an incredible effort, an incredible achievement, and honest to God, I'm absolutely buzzing with it.
Aye. In terms of nerves, I've not worked well with it all day. The entire build-up to the game, hadn't ate anything, couldn't eat anything, couldn't even enter that thought. I was just on edge, just like thinking the worst was going to happen. Nerves were eased slightly when we took the lead. Another goal in the first 10 minutes. As if you've seen our video during the week, you'll have known that we're in this competition. We've been quite quick starters, but yeah, got off to it again. A good set piece. Josh Mullen puts the ball in a dangerous area. Scott Robinson surprisingly wins the header in that big cluster of players. Effie Ambrose desperately unlucky to get his first goal for the club, but Robinson showing great instinct to be aware and header the ball. What I really liked about Robinson's goal as well, you've seen the likes of Shaughnessy, McCarthy and whoever else was on the line. A big bundle of players was coming up there, and the fact that he heads it down the way kind of avoids all those kind of players running into towards the goal mouth. So it was really, really intelligently placed. But as Andy said, yeah, what an absolutely woeful game that was, I'm not going to lie. David Martindale said at full time that he thinks the ball's going to go to hospital. Yeah, that sums it up tremendously well. I was quite surprised that St Mirren tried to go kind of toe-to-toe in that kind of style with us. They didn't really seem to have much of an interest in getting the ball down properly and try to cause a threat that way. They just kept on pinging balls down the throats of Guthrie, Strejek and Ambrose, which we managed to deal with tremendously. They came close on a couple of occasions. Sybil headers one off the post, which was very, very good from him, very good defending. But then, yeah, other than that, they kind of squandered a few kind of decent chances. Serrano was caught out of position for one, and they tried to cut the ball back. But again, there wasn't really anything that went properly to them. Opika had a header, but it was probably the tamest effort you'll see all season. And it was just amazing that we could pull through and get to our first final since 2004, which is absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, I have to say, I'd been okay all day until the second the coverage started on Premier Sports. I then just became an absolute nervous wreck watching the game, and my muscles are actually sore because they were that tense for at least 2 hours. It was horrible viewing, to be honest, at times, but at the end of the day, semi-finals, it's all about the result, and massive credit to the players. They stuck at it. They faced quite a fair bit of pressure from St Mirren in the second half. I thought we struggled to get out of half at times, but they clung on in there, threw their bodies on the line, blocks, headers, and we got the job done in the end. But as you say, started off really quick. It's a good delivery by Josh, but the goal doesn't happen if Robbo doesn't make that initial contact on the ball with a flick on onto Ambrose. And obviously, if he's unlucky, it's probably the one player we don't want a header to fall to in the box, on evidence over the last few games. But Robbo's on hand to tuck it away, and don't think there was really anything in the first half after that. St Mirren had a penalty shout, but for me it would have been incredibly soft if that was given against Nicky. It was the fact that there was a lot of debate about it from the pundits says a lot. But the second half, I think Devlin had a chance really early doors where Josh has pulled it across to the back post and he's blazed it over the bar. And as you say, great clearance off the line by Sibbs. And the only other real chances I would say St Mirren had were that Abika header. It was probably the one time John Guthrie was caught under the ball the whole game. And it was a very tame header, and that one where Serrano was caught quite far out of position, and they've got him behind on that side. But at the end, it wasn't a spectacle. To be honest, I don't think the surface helped either. I don't think the pitch at Hampden was great. Yeah, nowhere near as good as an artificial pitch covered in snow. Ours was much more playable on Wednesday night. But I don't think that made it overly conducive for a kind of ball on the ground game of football. But I'm absolutely delighted with this group of players. I think the efforts that have been put in at the club over the last 5-6 years to get the club to where it is, this is just kind of the peak of what that effort deserves. And you know, it's a small team behind the scenes at the club, you know, and they deserve this as well. And the players have done a magnificent job getting us there. It's such a disappointment that we're likely not going to get to be in the ground to see it. But at the end of the day, if we bring the cup home, I don't think I could give a shit.
Yeah, do you know something? You touched on the goal that we scored, and it was actually lost on me at the time. Just how good that flick on was to Robinson initially. I didn't actually realise at first that Robinson had flicked it on to Ambrose. Didn't surprise me one bit that Ambrose missed, by the way, because he seems quite good at that. But as you said, Angus, he followed it up really well. His movement was good, and I think McCoist and Michael Stewart mentioned that he was always on his toes. He was able to sort of realise that ball was coming back to him, and he put it in the net. A tremendous start, and then kind of after that, like you have both said, it was really a nothing game. I don't think we particularly, like I said, played overly well. But you know what, I could not care less. I think special mention to Sibbald. He obviously headed one off the line just early on in the second half. And you know something, I feel like if St Mirren did get a goal, we might have lost that game. So a great credit to Sibbald and the whole team. You know, they defended for the front as a Livingston team always do. You know, and it really was tremendous at the end. That relief. It was almost relief rather than celebration at the end that we've done there and we've got to the final. But also a special mention to Davy Martindale. You know, it's been talked about at length this week on social media, on all the networks. I've been talking about his past, but you know something, I'm sure all the players will recognise what a journey it's been for him to get to this stage. He's now managing a Premiership football club by all uncertain terms until at least Tuesday anyway, until he's meeting. Hopefully that goes his way. But you know, he's spoke about his past at great length, managing a Premiership football club in the top 6. He's now in the cup, a national cup final for the club. Quite an incredible achievement, and you know, tactically, very, very good again. You know, people might have criticised him on Wednesday night. We spoke about it making 7 changes, but again, that's came through for him. We've won the game today, and we're in the cup final. What an achievement for him! What an achievement for the club!
Aye, spot on. Martindale's been a real breath of fresh air since coming in. Before going to talk about Martindale, though, I would like to say a special thanks to Gary Holt. We don't get this far without his work over the last kind of like couple of seasons. And yeah, his work that he did at the club was really much appreciated and is a big part of why this team has done so well. But yeah, that's definitely the thing that I'm most impressed with David Martindale is the fact that he's came in and he is so switched on to the game. He understands the kind of things you can exploit, where to like kind of tighten up and everything like that. It's really, really impressive. I actually seen a tweet earlier on and somebody was talking about how the fact that the kind of like final, like us today, Livingston and St Mirren and St Johnstone in the final, Callum Davidson, Jim Goodwin. Well, you just look at St Mirren and Livingston, Jim Goodwin and David Martindale. Somebody was talking about like how in Scotland we kind of like to talk about like how these bigger teams, the likes of your Dundees, the likes of your Dunfermlines and all of that, they like to talk about like being a big club. But they always like to talk about like kind of like budgets and stuff like that they work with. There's the proof in pudding what a manager can do to completely transform a team. That kind of team spirit that we have is unmatched, possibly even in the country, with up there with the best teams, even like your Rangers and Celtics. And I think both teams deserve great credit for how we both came up in the from the Championship at the same time, and have both been great additions to the league, I think, especially this season. The last kind of thing I want to touch on is it's kind of a wee bit of a soppy thing, just because we kind of touched on about how the fans haven't been there. The players might have missed that today. Everybody connected to the club wishes that we could have been there and celebrate and have this moment together. But I have to say a massive thanks to the club, because this lockdown's been really, really crap for everybody. And the fact that this kind of run that we've been on, every game we've been looking forward to, and the guys have delivered every time. And now we've made history again. And it just means an absolute lot to us to see that kind of effort. And it really has like truly brightened up like every week that we have, especially on this run. So to every player, manager, coach, official, people who work in like the kind of office and that, like, thank you so much for being a big part in this run.
Yeah, I guess I kind of echo your thoughts there. The thing that's kind of getting me through each week just now is the team playing on a Wednesday and a Saturday or a Sunday in this case, but they've kind of pulled us through with this recent run of form. The person I wanted to give a wee kind of a mention to, Jim Goodwin, actually, for his comments after the game. I think he was, it's in these games, it's easy to be quite bitter. Your team's just lost a cup semi-final, possibly one of your best chances to win a major trophy, and I thought he was incredibly gracious in defeat and wishing both managers, Callum Davidson and Davey, good luck for the final. Obviously has a lot of respect for the both of them, so fair play to Jim Goodwin. But look, it's a massive occasion for the club next month. I think testament to the players again for today, because after Hibs getting knocked out yesterday, I saw a lot on social media with us getting labelled this favourites tag. It's not very often a club of our size gets the tag of favourites going into a cup semi-final to go and win the competition. And that's probably going to add to the nerves for the players and stuff like that. But, they've got the job done. We've obviously got a load of games between now and then. I'm sure that's going to make the squad hungry to try and get into that cup final team. And hopefully they can etch their names on the trophy like the class of 2004.
That would have been a good way to end, but I just want to quickly say you're absolutely spot on. But also, Angus, the club's not going to shag you, and Jim Goodwin's not going to shag you. But yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with everything you have said there, guys. A total honour to watch this team, a real breath of fresh air to get us through lockdown, and congratulations to every single one of them, and to all the fans out there. If you listen, if you don't listen, enjoy this moment, because it might not come around again. We are very fortunate that we've seen us in a cup final before, and we'll see us do it again, whether we're there or whether we're watching at home. But it'll be a great day and one to look forward to, and I, for one, absolutely can't wait. It's back to league business on Wednesday as the games keep coming thick and fast. We welcome Kilmarnock to the Tony Macaroni Arena, looking to avenge defeat in this same tie earlier in the season. If we're going to secure a top 6 spot again this season, this game will go a long way of showing that. Big one, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive game. Again, games, as you say, keep coming thick and fast. Kilmarnock, game earlier in the season, I think to be honest, I think we were really unlucky to lose the game at our place earlier in the season. Obviously, individual mistakes cost us dearly that day. But I think we got a bit of revenge at Rugby Park on Boxing Day. Thoroughly deserved the result. But, I think we might be... Kelly are such an unpredictable team. Since then, they've picked up a win here and there. Dragged themselves away from that mix at the bottom a little bit again. but they are very unpredictable, to be honest. I think, kind of echo the thoughts of the previous game, I think the midfield battle is going to be really important. Kind of the players that keep them ticking, the likes of Tishbola, Power, Dicker, Malumbu, Fipoys as well. They're kind of the players that make Kilmarnock tick. But it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be interesting to see what Davy does with the team. Obviously, a lot of exertion after that semi-final, so whether he goes and makes a few changes to freshen things up. Obviously, after the Celtic game, he can obviously go to the rest of the squad and can trust them to come in and do a job. And I'm sure, as I kind of touched on in the Cup semi-final segment, they'll be chomping at the bit to get in the team and try and make an impact, because there's a massive game at the end of February coming up. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's a difficult one to kind of predict, as I say, with Kilmarnock's form this season. But the run of form we're on, it's difficult to see us getting beat at times.
You've nailed it with Kilmarnock. There are weeks where you watch them, you're like, you know what, they're actually quite a good team. You look at the start of the season, Chris Burke was on fire, the boy Kabamba looks like a real player. Recent weeks, that's kind of not been the kind of thing, but Greg Celtic came in quite recently, scored a couple of goals as well. So, like, you know that they do have like these kind of threats who can punish teams, but they just can't really seem to get much of a good run going. I think they've only won like 2 of like their last like 9 games or something like that in the league. So they are kind of like a very stop-start team, and I think a lot of Kilmarnock fans are still not entirely sold on Alex Dyer. But the way that we are playing, the form that we're on, especially at home, we should be looking to take 3 points from this. But we do need to be wary, because they do have threats who can punish us if we are slack, which is exactly what happened in that 3-1 game, where mistakes, referee or our own, cost us dearly that day. But surely the lads will be on a massive boost, and as you just said, players will, if we rotate the team, the likes of Alan Forrest didn't feature today, he'll be looking to come into the team possibly and show why exactly he should be in contention to play in the finals and whatnot. But yeah, looking forward to the game. As long as we apply ourselves like we have on this run, then I'm confident we can pick up a result.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, going back to my kind of original question, I think that it's a huge game in terms of securing a top 6 spot. I think if we win it, we'd have to go on a pretty poor run to not be in the top 6 come sort of 33 games. So it is a huge game. If we lose it, you're starting to look over your shoulder again. But you win the game, you're starting to reel in that team above us. So it's a huge game, especially coming off the back of such a massive game today, the cup semi-final. But I agree again at Kilmarnock. I think you've said it all. We've described Kilmarnock this way in the previous 2 games as well. So inconsistent. They've got players there that could cause a lot of problems, but they'll win a couple of games and then they'll go on a 2 or 3 game losing run, then they'll draw a game and then they'll win a couple of games. They just can't seem to get a run going, unlike ourselves, who are obviously now 11 games without defeat. Quite incredible, really, the run we're on. It's some kind of magician at the helm, obviously, at the wheel. We did have a bus driver at the wheel, but now we've got a magician. I think it's unbelievable, the run we're on. And like you say, if we go into this game with the right application and the right sort of desire, and you touched on it, Ewan, that players will be itching at the bit to go and prove themselves and really playing for their jersey in the cup final now. It's got to be it's not just a positive that we're in the cup final. It's a real boost now that we've got a squad of players that will be eager and desperate to get in that starting lineup for the cup final. So these games between now and the 28th of February are just as important to the players as any of the previous 11 games. And, it would not surprise me if we continue on this run of form, because the players are all desperate to play, and they're all desperate to play in that cup final. And if they keep playing the way they're playing, any one of them could get in that starting lineup, because like you mentioned, Angus, Alan Forrest didn't even feature today. Arguably been our best player this season. Didn't even feature. He'll be itching at the bit to get in that team. Kieran Brown, there's another one, suspended for the cup semi-final. He'll likely come back in. You've got players like Jack McMillan sitting on the bench itching to get minutes. what a squad of players we've got. And, something, maybe early in the season I wouldn't have been comfortable playing this amount of games in such a short period of time. But I can't wait for the next game to get going, just the way we are playing.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts, Andy. As we've kind of touched on in previous podcasts, sometimes when you see this run of games, you think, oh God, this is going to be hellish. But the way the team's playing, it's almost like they can't wait for the next game. And it'll be an interesting one. The last Kilmarnock game, shape-wise, we kind of went a 4-3-3, really tight in the middle of the park with Sibbald, Holt and Bartley. Kind of touching on that midfield battle, do you see us doing something similar with that?
I wouldn't imagine we'll change up that much, to be honest. I think if we kind of apply ourselves normally, I think that's kind of the benefit of that kind of 4-2-3-1, can kind of drop into a 4-3-3 if need be. Whether that might end up being that Sibbald comes in and stays central rather than kind of drifting out to the left-hand side, and you might have Pittman kind of staying that kind of way. The bigger difference I'd probably say from the last time that we played Kilmarnock, I would say that we'll have somebody like Robinson up front as opposed to Jet. I think that first game that the last time that we played them, it was at Rugby Park. I think probably that was more of like an issue. I think, as you mentioned, the midfield battle, there's not an awful lot of like give between that. I feel like it was very tightly contested. So I feel like probably more where we can exploit them is by getting the ball up the pitch, and I think somebody like Robinson will be much more better suited to that. Jet did score his goal the last time, but he doesn't offer you that same kind of energy as we've seen so often. In terms of like maybe like rotating, who knows? I can't really see it, to be honest. I would imagine that every player wants to play. Perhaps Jason Holt, if he's still maybe carrying a wee bit of a knock that kind of kept him out prior to the couple of games here, you might see him drop out, and you might move even like Serrano back into the middle, or Pittman will just come straight there, which would then open the door for Forrest to go back out wide.
I think the big one for me, it wouldn't surprise me if we changed slightly in terms of shape and rotated slightly, because the players have put in so much work, and even sort of mentally, it was a big game in the cup semi-final, and mentally a few of these players would be drained. And obviously they're professional footballers, and the game's not till Wednesday night, but it's amazing how much that kind of big build up to a game and then the 90 minutes itself can take it out on a player. So I can envisage maybe 2 or 3 changes. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Alan Forrest starts. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Kieran Brown comes back, and probably maybe Jack Fitzwater as well. I think the one that's slightly concerning me, and I didn't think this would be the case this season. I think Julian Serrano's been slightly defensively naive the last couple of games. I think it's shown in terms of when Kieran Brown's played there, we've looked far more solid on that left side, which again we touched on prior to this segment. I didn't think I would ever say that, but to me Brown's been far more defensively solid than Serrano. So that's maybe one to look out for. Does Robbo play in this game, given the sort of effort and that he put in there? He might start on the bench. Maybe Gavin Riley will come in and play 60, 70 minutes, see how the game goes. Again, we touch on it every week. The squad that we've got is quite incredible. We could make 4 or 5 changes for Wednesday night and still have a really strong starting 11 that I would be confident going into the game that we could win. So it wouldn't surprise me if Davey and Liam are looking at it to rest 1 or 2. And let's not forget, we've got a couple of big games against Aberdeen coming up after this one. So, there's going to be some changes in the team. Whether we change formation to suit that, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
So let's get on to predictions then for the Kilmarnock game. Angus, we'll start with you. What are you expecting?
I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory for Livingston. I can kind of see this game going the same way that the Kilmarnock game against Hibs recently was at Easter Road, where Hibs kind of got a couple of goals, and I believe it was the first half to go 2-0 up and just kind of saw the game out. And I would love for that to happen in our game on Wednesday.
Well, I think we'll go into this game raring to go. Changes or no changes, I think we'll be raring to go. Kilmarnock aren't scoring many goals. I think we'll pick Kilmarnock off over the 90 minutes. I think 3-0 Livingston. I think we'll be right at it, and I think we'll score a few goals as well.
I'm going to go for a 1-0. I think the exertions that are been put through the last kind of couple of weeks, I think, as you say, it's been a mentally draining few weeks for the players. Obviously, this cup semi-final coming up, but I think we'll show a gritty side and get a 1-0 victory.
Finally this week we face Aberdeen. Well, maybe. In our 2 previous episodes we've looked at Aberdeen. The game has fallen foul due to the weather. This time Aberdeen come to the Tony Macaroni Arena, so hoping for third time lucky. We won't spend too much time on this one, but depending on results midweek, we could very much be looking to chase down Aberdeen in the league. Is that a fair assessment, guys?
Yeah, I'm getting kind of fed up of previewing this game. I've kind of touched on it before with Aberdeen there. They almost, Aberdeen fans seem to think they're in a bit of crisis just now. But I still never understand what Aberdeen fans are expecting from Derek McInnes. I don't know if it's the brand of football maybe that's starting to get a bit turgid on the eye. But it's a massive opportunity. If we could go and get a couple of positive results against Aberdeen and potentially start closing that gap, European football is a realistic target. I'll still settle for 10th place. I'll continue to say that until we're mathematically safe. But yeah, it's a good opportunity. Obviously, depending on the result on Wednesday night, hopefully we can pick up 3 points there, and we could maybe start reeling Aberdeen in a little bit. But I think Aberdeen, again, we've touched on this all the previews before. They've properly had our number since we've got promotion. Only got the 1 point off them up at Pittodrie our first season back, and all the games have been really tight. There's really been not a lot in it, but McInnes always talks about when they come to play Livi, it's all about kind of doing the basics right, the ugly side of the game, and if you can match that with Livi, maybe kind of quality can show through. And Aberdeen do have players that can cause a lot of problems. Obviously, Hedges will be back from his suspension that he served recently. He's been kind of a bright spot for Aberdeen this season. The lad Scott Wright, who's been linked with Rangers just now as well. But for me, there's absolutely nothing to fear with Aberdeen. The run of form we're on, I think we're more than capable of opening it up and creating chances against them. But I think Aberdeen will think the same the other way. I think it could be a really entertaining game of football.
Yeah, the thing I'm looking forward to most, to be honest, is the Aberdeen fans' meltdown on Twitter at the surprise of the £20 pay-per-view price. Even though they've seen it twice before, they'll still have a meltdown. The biggest moaners in Scottish football. Not really a surprise, given that they've got the sort of the background of being tight bastards up in Aberdeen. I think it's proved the case through the tweets that we post about the pay-per-view price, and so really looking forward to deceive from the Aberdeen fans. But obviously on the game,
Andy, I'd like to say it's your turn to take care of them this time, because I done the night shift that night.
I also handled most of the pitch stuff as well, so if you want to do double duty, that'd be great.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait. But yeah, on the game, you've kind of said it all. That we've spoke about Aberdeen at length twice now for the game to get sort of postponed or abandoned, whatever you want to call it. So I mean, third time lucky with a bit of luck, we go on and get this game on and we get the result. I think you're right. Aberdeen are another side. I say this every time. I don't quite understand the Aberdeen fans' opinions on Derek McInnes. I think it's a totally flawed argument to say that the football's rubbish. I think every year that he's been there, they've been in the top 4, 5 in the league. They're always competing in the cup competitions. They're always getting to Europe at first couple of rounds. What else do Aberdeen fans want? It makes me think about the saying, you're better knowing what you've got rather than changing up. And I always look at Ipswich Town when I talk about this. The Ipswich fans were along the same lines as Aberdeen. They wanted to get rid of Mick McCarthy. The style of play wasn't very good. We're kind of stuck in the same league all the time. Well, they got their wish. They got out of the Championship down south after getting rid of Mick McCarthy, and they got relegated. I'm not saying Aberdeen would get relegated, but what's to say that they make a change and they finish outside the top 4? But that's kind of going off on a tangent a wee bit away from the game. I don't see why we can't go into this game again with some really great confidence and take the game to Aberdeen and go and win the game and get that first win over Aberdeen since our return to the top flight.
I think your kind of assessment of them is quite fair. If you ask me now, if Derek McInnes was to leave Aberdeen, who are you really looking at to kind of take over from them? But also at the same time, just kind of play a wee bit of devil's advocate as well. Is that not the last 2 seasons, though, that they've finished 4th with Motherwell and Kilmarnock have pipped them to 3rd place? So I think possibly there may be a wee bit of a gripe there that they've kind of got so far during the time that Rangers were out of the league, and now it's kind of starting to like regress backwards. Possibly they are sacrificing a wee bit because of that new stadium that they're building, but in terms of like McInnes, you already know that no matter what, they will end up like turning results around and getting things back on track. As you've seen, like just in recent weeks there, they had a couple of poor results where they were drawing a few games and then culminated in them losing 4-1 to Ross County, which was an absolute shock to everybody. But they had a good win against Motherwell yesterday, which shows you that they can very easily turn it on and get back to winning ways. It is a very interesting game that will be closely contested, as I feel like we're kind of two kind of similar sides in that aspect, but one that I'm kind of looking forward to. What would you think for predictions then, guys?
Well, yeah, it's a good job we're getting on to predictions, because for our listeners, Andy's doing a Harry Houdini act. He's left the chat about 40 times whilst recording, so we better get on to predictions. I'm going to stick with what I've said for the last two. I'm going to say it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go PP for postponed again. Let's make it a hat trick. Now I'm going to stick with one each.
Yeah, I think it'll be tight. Not a lot between the sides. To be honest, I can't remember what I predicted the last couple of games. So I'm just going to go 1-0 Livi and make it 2 wins out of 2 for the league games coming up.
Yeah, we've done this so many times that I've got absolutely no idea what I've predicted. But I'm in a kind of similar mindset as you in here, so I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Interesting. So a big week ahead for the club. We've had a big week prior to this week coming. It's another big week. The games keep coming and thick and fast. Massive games in terms of securing a spot in the top 6 and potentially Europe going forward. What another incredible achievement that would be. But a long way to go this season. But these two big games coming up could really see where we are at going forward for the rest of the league campaign.
That's it for this week's episode of TalkLivi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in, week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Ewan said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search TalkLivi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. But we're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel over there. If none of those options suit you, though, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
That's it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's hope for another great week following the Lothians' finest football team. And a final reminder, we are going to Hampden.
Livingston, a love will never die. West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Aberdeen. Livingston, Livingston. We love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Almonville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston. Livingston to the Premier Division. Livingston, 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 Livingston. West Lothian boys, they play with style. They run until they drop. Livingston